The Biden administration's struggle to manage COVID, the economy, and voting rights has caused the president's polling numbers to fall to a new low. According to a recent Quinnipiac poll, only 33% of those surveyed approve of the president's job performance. Biden's frail polling prompted the White House to release a memo calling the Quinnipiac poll an outlier. While the White House is busy defending Biden, it appears that activists may have to pick up the mantle and move the nation forward on voting rights. For black people, taking to the streets to ensure our votes are counted is nothing new, unfortunately. Congressional Black Caucus Chair Representative Joyce Beatty took to the House floor and spoke to the history of black activists putting their lives on the line for the right to vote.
Black people representing the Congressional Black Caucus have stood in line, have been attacked by dogs, have put their lives on the line, crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge for us to have the right to vote. America, watch what's happening today.
Joining me now is Deputy National Field Director for Black Voters Matter, Danielle Brown. So, Danielle, President Biden's relationship to the voting rights activists kind of got sour because they kept asking him to do things, even to have meetings with them, and he was having no parts of it. He wasn't taking those meetings, and he also wasn't weighing in heavily, actively, vociferously on getting rid of the filibuster in order to pass voting rights. How do you think that relationship moves forward if we are running into the situation where it looks like at this point, unless something changes, that this voting rights legislation is going to fail?
We continue to move forward. We, in the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, the fight that we continue to have on the day-to-day basis is what we continue to do. We bring in the people that really truly make a difference, the people that voted these folks in. We bring in our communities. We dig deep. We let people know what's going on, how to move, what needs to happen. We train up those folks. We take to the streets. We do what we need to do to ensure what we've always worked to ensure: our rights to vote, our rights in general. Those are the things that we do. We continue to make those moves. We continue to have those conversations, and we don't just allow a no. We don't accept a no. We don't take a no. It's been said all week long that we won't stop fighting. It's been said all week long that no is not an option, and we stick to that. We continue to stick to that, and we continue to fight for what is truly ours, which is our right to vote.
Yeah, let's dig down on the specifics of that, though, because I've heard this language all week as well, just as you pointed out. People keep saying, well, we're going to keep fighting. But you know, there are two very specific Democratic senators whose mind needs to be changed, right? Everybody who wanted to meet with Joe Manchin has met with him. Even, you know, how Democratic representatives from Texas, when they were in Washington to break quorum in Texas to prevent voting, the restricted voting rights voter laws from going into effect in Texas, they even met with Manchin. Everyone's met with Manchin, right? So what is this fight? Because I don't want us to get stuck in kind of positive speak, because it is a real technical thing. Like, there are 2 votes on the Democratic side. There may be 3 people who people used to consider movable on the Republican side, the Mitt Romneys of the world. They're not moving. The 2 Democratic senators are not moving. The idea of like constantly saying we're just going to keep fighting, I don't know what that means really, because when the first Jim Crow was erected, black people kept fighting, but Jim Crow stood for 70 years, right? So they won the fight, but they won it after 70 years.
So we, at this point in time, we have to understand too that who's in charge, you know, and we have to have Manchin to remember who's in charge. One of the things he said was the filibuster makes the Senate. The filibuster doesn't make the Senate. The people that voted folks in, we make the Senate. We're the ones who make the Senate. We're the ones who you are representing. We are the ones who continue to that you continue to let down every single day. We are the ones that are marching every single day, are acting every single day, are going out here and making sure people are registered, making sure people have an understanding of what is happening and what is going on. We are those folks, and so we have to help him to understand that it is not the filibuster that runs the Senate. It is us, the people of the United States, that run this Senate, the ones who stand outside of the White House and continue to get arrested until you begin to listen to us. We are the ones who are continuing to work in these neighborhoods where nobody else wants to go in. We're the ones that continue to talk to folks on a day-to-day basis about what it truly means to be an actual voter in this, all of this. So it's truly important for us to take not just back what is rightfully ours as voters, but for the Senate to understand that we voted you in, and it's and we can truly vote you out. And in doing that, it's very important that we understand too that is our right. That is our right to continue to fight, and it's our right to continue not only just to fight for voting laws that make sense to us, but it's our right to fight on a day-to-day basis for the laws that make sense for this country.
Right, but so there are two things here I just want you to address for me. One is, what if Manchin already understands this, right? It's one thing what he's saying, but maybe he already understands that what is going to happen, and he's okay with it, right? So that is a reality that we have to, I think, all consider. But the second thing is this. We can say we have the right and we have the vote to vote you out, but if the vote is systematically being attacked so that you have less and less and less power, you get to a point where you don't have the power. You only have the moral authority. You don't have the power. I mean, you know, the Senate, the House of Representatives is very likely to flip in 2022. Part of that is just historical pressure, but part of it is that states, Republicans around the country have gone through and systematically pushed out, eliminated Democratic seats, right? So at a certain point, there has to be a moral imperative, and someone at the top has to do it, because just like the civil rights movement, they didn't have the votes to threaten any of the senators or the state representatives in those southern states, because their vote were being suppressed. They didn't have the votes. They had to have the moral authority, and somebody from the top had to do it. How do we get someone at the top, Biden, Harris, the entire administration, to step in and really put pressure on them? Even when they gave that great speech in Georgia, there was no pressure put directly on the people who were the holdouts. Call Manchin by his name, call Kristen Sinema by her name, put some pressure in their districts, but that's not happening. How do you make that happen?
We continue to apply that pressure. We continue to go work. We continue to call him out. We continue to make those demands of him. If he won't call those folks out, then we continue to call him out. We continue to make sure that our voices are being heard, and that we are the ones that are leading this fight, in the sense of we need to continue saying that this is the plan. What is the plan, sir? What is happening? What are you demanding? How are you ensuring that voting rights are on the top of the list? Are these laws are being passed? How do we do that? We continue to say to Biden, you know what? It's not enough to meet with the caucus. It's not enough just to have a great speech. It's not enough to make some phone calls. It's not enough to go in for one meeting. It's not enough to have backdoor quiet meetings. As much as you're tired of being quiet, we're tired of you being quiet. As much as you are tired of having these backdoor meetings, we're tired of you having those backdoor meetings. Meet with the true people that are out here doing this work, and call out the people that need to be called out, and call it for what it is. And stop hiding behind your desk and behind the paperwork. Start actually doing something for the rights of the people that actually voted you in.
Danielle Brown, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate your time.